Hi, and welcome to episode number 175 of the Savvy Social Podcast. This is a show dedicated to helping passion-led online business owners and social media managers learn the how and the why of social media marketing so that they can create connection, build community, and make their difference in the world. And I have Antonio Thornton on the show today, which I'll bring him on in a moment. But first, if you haven't signed up for our free course yet, why not? It is amazing. We have so many resources in that free course. I had someone the other day go, "What? This is free?" Yes, it is free. We help you develop a social media strategy that you'll actually stick with, one that will really help you grow your business while not taking all of the time in your day. You can check out that free course by going to OnlineDrea.com/free. That's OnlineDrea.com/FREE. And if you sign up now, you get access to some amazing bonuses like social media swipe files, done for you graphics, and more. So check that out today. Now, as I mentioned, I have Antonio Thornton on the show today. Antonio is the founder of Fearless Impact, which is a global movement of business leaders and passion-based entrepreneurs committed to making a positive impact in the world. He's referred to as the profit engineer and is sought after for his mastery of direct response marketing and business growth strategy. Over the past 20 years, Antonio has worked on projects with the likes of Robert Kiyosaki, Bob Proctor, Les Brown, Georgia Pacific, Microsoft, and recently Facebook. Antonio has helped more than 250,000 business owners from all over the globe reach greater profits, faster growth, and have an improved quality of life. With that, Antonio, welcome to the show.
Hey, glad to be here. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this conversation. So right before this, those of you watching and listening, we just realized that we kind of grew up in the same area. He knows my dad. His kids know my sister. It's such a small world.
Right. It's a social world.
Yeah, this is the power of the internet where we can literally be reconnected on this podcast, which is funny.
Right.
So how did you get into kind of being this business growth expert? Talk to us about your journey.
Yeah. So I started my first business when I was about 14 years old, and I was in high school at the time. They call it middle school now, but that kind of reveals my age. But anyway, I was in high school and I was selling candy, and I was really good at selling candy because I was, one, recruiting other people. And I also, at the time, had a very unique way of bringing my candy to school. So my Kit Kats, my Snickers bars, and my Reese's cups, I brought to school in a cooler. So by the time lunch came around, I had this pristine chocolate where everyone else who was selling candy, their chocolate was sticky and drippy and all this other stuff. So I was able to sell my candy for twice as much as they were. And that really gave me the taste of entrepreneurship. And I think from there, I knew that was the path I was going to be on, because I've only had 3 jobs my entire life, and I got fired from all 3 of them. So after, that, I started a paging and cell phone company. Then that transitioned into a technology company. I also DJ'd. I ran a cabin rental company, et cetera. So I've done a lot of things. But here's the thing that I realized. I was never the best at any of the things that I did, ever. I was never the best. There were always companies who were very obviously better than I was and better than my company. But the reason why I did well was because I was able to sell better than they were. So I was a marketer. That was just who I was. I was just a natural marketer. So around 2000-ish or so, that's when I kind of transitioned to just running a full-time marketing agency. And that's what got me to where I am now.
I find that so interesting because I do think that a lot of people think when they go into building a business, it has to be creating something new. But basically what you're saying is you can market something that already exists and still have a really thriving business behind that. Is that correct?
I'll go so far as to saying that is the way to do it. The thing is that most companies don't really innovate as much as they like to think that they do. Because when you really think about, like, even the iPhone, the iPod, when all, people, oh my gosh, this thing, this device. Well, we already had CD players. We already had, cassette players. We had mobile, listening devices. They just made more availability in this one device. So I tend to tell clients, don't look to try to become the next brand new thing, because most brand new things tend to fail. Because what is Facebook really at the end of the day? It's just a really sophisticated BBS. And for those of you who don't know what a BBS is, and I know, again, I'm telling my age, but a BBS was a bulletin board system back in the day where people would log into, on the computer with a modem. I don't know if you guys remember that, but we would log into to the internet through this modem, and people would type words, and words would just go up on the screen, and someone would say something, then someone else would say something. That's all it is, and that's all Facebook is now. But it's more sophisticated in that. You got images, you've got videos, you've got all those other things. But Facebook is not a brand new thing. It's just slight innovation on what was already there. So to answer your question, yeah, I would recommend people become good at marketing things that already exist, that people are already buying, instead of trying to come up with something brand new.
Yes. Okay. I love that direction. And we actually have quite a few marketers on the show as well, all trying to grow their own businesses and get their own clients. And you have some pretty big names on your roster. So for the marketers who are listening, can you talk to us a little bit about, what did you learn in your career, or what are some of the failures that you learned along the way in building this marketing company?
Holy crap. How long is this show? The failures that we had. I'll just kind of talk about a few things, and then we'll kind of transition from there. So when I first started my marketing business, I could not get anyone to do business with me, and I really couldn't figure out why. But there's a whole multitude of reasons. But I couldn't get anyone to do business with me, and it was like shameful. Here it is, a marketer. I couldn't get I couldn't market my own business. So one of my mentors, Jay Abraham, told me, he says, listen, I want you to create a contingency-based marketing company. And I didn't even know what a contingency-based meant at the time. So he said, is when you go out and make people money, and then you get paid on the money that you make them. So that's where money mouth marketing was born. And, our slogan is, we put our money where our mouth is. And my pitch was, at the time, I would go to companies to say, hey, if I bring you $1, will you give me a dime? And they were like, wait, what? It's like, if I bring you $1, will you give me a dime? So I went into companies, and they were like, yeah. So I went in, did the work, made them the money, and then they paid me on the money that I brought them. And that was what really birthed my company. And that did two things for me. One, obviously got me clients, but it also made me very, very good at what I did, because if I didn't do what I said I was going to do, I didn't eat. So I had, but it also gave me this opportunity as well. I was able to make more money than most of the flat fee marketing companies, where they were charging a couple $1,000s a month. We were able to bring in $8,000, $10,000, $15,000 a month because of the revenues that we were generating for our clients. So, what that did for me was it really got me present to how important it is to be able to get results for your clients. Because the reason why most people weren't doing business with me at the very beginning is because they'd already worked with 2, 3, 4, 5 marketing companies who just left them high and dry. They were spending money, but not getting any results. So our entire business was based on results. So that was a really big, I guess I have to say, paradigm shift for me. Is really focusing on client results. And that was really what built the business, So I can talk about a whole dozen other things that we did wrong, but like I said, It just depends on how long you want the show to go.
I know, I actually am really fascinated about this, and I was going to dig into kind of like how you market your business on social, but I think we have so many business owners who are service providers, who are marketers, who could find a lot of value from some of the experiences that you had. So I'd like just to stay in this vein for a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
when you're thinking about some of the big names, you have Bob Proctor on here, you have Facebook on here. When it comes to building up a business to be able to handle some of those larger companies, why do you think that they said yes to you versus all of the other marketing companies out there?
Yeah, very similar to what I was saying earlier. Understanding your client is going to be key. So I have a psychology background, and I absolutely am in love with human behavior, studying human beings in general. And when you understand human beings, like understanding like to the level of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you then have a different relationship with them, and they relate to you very differently. Let me give you a perfect example. When I ran my technology company, one of the things that we would do is that we spoke in plain English, where let's say the company that was bidding prior to us might go in and say, okay, well, we have the exchange servers with TCP/IP and Cat5 technology, blah, 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 blah. They would go in with all that techno garble. We would go in and say, hey, you know how Mary takes that floppy disk over to Bob and he accidentally writes over what she did and she has to do everything all over? Oh my gosh, yes, we hate that. Well, we fixed that. You fix that, you're hired. That's really what we did at that time. And it was because we understood we weren't selling to a business. We were selling to a group of individuals. And those individuals had problems. So we sold to the problems of those individuals because we understood, we cared about where they were. And that's what made us as good as we were. And that's what made me across the board and all the things that I've done. Like I said, I've never been the best at anything other than marketing. But I've always been the best at marketing those things. So let's go back to high school. Mm-hmm. When I chose to bring that chocolate to school in a cooler, it was because of understanding human behavior. Nobody likes chocolate dripping and sticking on their fingers and having to clean. Nobody wants that, right? But other guys didn't think, well, how can I prevent that? I did. I went home. How can I prevent that? A cooler. I'll do that. So I was able to give people what they wanted from their perspectives, like, oh yeah. And they were willing to pay more for it. They were willing to pay more for it. And that's across the board. So when you to kind of answer your question, it really boils down to you as an organization, as an individual, as a company, understanding that you're selling to other individuals. And when you understand what they want, then you're able to sell them in a very different way than the traditional, stuffy sounding, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. But people just want to be related to as human beings because that's who they are. There's no such thing as a company at the end of the day. It's just a building with a bunch of individual people in the building. And those individual people have individual problems. So when you're able to speak to that, like I said, you're able to relate to them in a very different way.
Oh, yes. I think this is so important, especially when we think about social media marketing, because people kind of feel like they're just blasting their messages out there and, hoping they'll stick. But there's an individual person reading each one of those things. Right. And so if you can really dial into speaking their language, not the jargony, thing you're supposed to say, but like actually describing what they're going through, I think that's really the most important thing when it comes to marketing. And that's cross channels, not just social media, but cross channels, really speaking to that. One of the things that you mentioned as well with kind of like your business and how it's built is that, in the early days it was you going out to these companies and solving their problems, but now you have a team. Can you talk to us about the growth from, it just being you to having a team of people supporting you with this?
Yeah. So one of the things that I learned over the years is, and I don't ever say this to put the educational system down. Okay, that's because that's not the thing. But I will say it's as a whole is kind of done us a disservice as entrepreneurs. Here's what I mean. When you go to school, you're supposed to get all A's in math, English, science, history, et cetera, et cetera. And what ends up happening is that, you do that for the majority of your life, and then you go off to start a business. You take on that same philosophy in your business. You start thinking that you've got to get an A in everything. You got to get an A in technology. You got to get an A in marketing. You got to get an A in writing. You got to get an A in web development. So you try to take on all those things. And the unfortunate thing is that most people end up crashing and burning because you can't be good at all those things. So I learned very early on that I need to find and hire people to come and do the things that they are great at. So with my technology company, again, I knew how to sell, but I actually didn't know a lot of the technology that my team knew. The people that I had around me were brilliant. They were smart. Tell you one guy in particular, Victor Hodges. Victor is that guy's brain was technology. And I would bring Victor in. He would look at a situation and say, okay, we need to do da. And I'm like, yeah, whatever he said, we're going to charge you $10,000 for that. That was pretty much it. And but it was because I understood that I can't be the end all be all. I can't be the everything to everyone in my business. So I brought in people who were smarter than me in the areas that I needed those smarts. So that journey for me was pretty. I ran into my challenges. Don't get me wrong. I had my challenges, but it was something that I adopted very, very early on in my business career. And I think that's really one of the things that's allowed me to get to the level of success that I have. Because like when you think about, Bill Gates, you think about Steve Jobs, you think about, Jeff Bezos. Yes, they may have started their businesses as individual people, but they didn't do everything. They didn't do every single thing. And when you look at their companies now, they have their vision, they have their goals, they have their ideals, but they have the teams around them, and now they can go in and say, okay, hey, go make this thing. You've got 8 months to do it or all of you fired. They're at that point now, of course, but you have to have that mentality going in to understand that you just can't be everything. You cannot. Mm-hmm. So, and even if you can't hire employees, you can outsource. That's one thing you can do, or partner with someone else who does have the skills that you're lacking.
Yes. I resisted this so much in my business too, because I felt like it would be impersonal for clients to, work with someone else, or, being egotistical and saying, well, I'm the best person to do this. And I will tell you this, my business has grown so much more when I have a team of people who can actually do all of these things. I'm able to serve more clients. And like you mentioned, just having smarter people, having people who have different ideas than you can really help stretch the creativity, which you need in a marketing business. You have to be creative, which I like that.
Right.
Thinking about this concept of everyone just kind of working together on a project. How do you pull in your team members when it comes to, especially in the past 18 months, a lot of marketing has switched to digital, right? A lot of opportunities for businesses have shifted to digital marketing. So what did you change or do with your team in the past, since the pandemic started, to really help support your clients in this shift and this desire for digital marketing?
Nothing at all. Around 2014, I think it was 2014, maybe 13, but I'm going to say 14. I ended up getting on the phone with a guy in London who ended up hiring me sight unseen. And about a month later, I went into my office and told everybody to go home and don't come back. Now, I didn't fire everybody. All right. I know everybody thought they were fired, but I was like, no, just go home and don't ever come back. Here's the reason why. We found that over the years, we started getting less and less people coming into the office. And I was just like, why are we even doing this? But, I thought that was what you're supposed to do. You have employees, you have this office, blah, blah, blah. You do all these other things. But when I ended up closing that guy in London, it was 2013. I ended up closing the guy in London. It made me very aware that we live in a world that has brought technology to the point where we can have international clients, never having to physically service any clients. So since then, we've been 100% remote. We were 100% remote. So when the pandemic hit, it was like there was no shift for us. There was more businesses that came in because people did start, more businesses started shifting online, but we didn't have to make any changes because we were already remote. We were
Yeah.
already remote. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's really the edge for a lot of marketing agencies now that they're seeing is, there's ways to collaborate remotely. Our clients are appreciative of the remote service because they don't have to go into an office either.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a big help for, I don't know, when there's a global pandemic and
Mm-hmm.
things shut down.
Right.
You mentioned
There's
there was
that.
an influx of business as well.
Mm-hmm.
Did you develop any new services or expand your team or any other shifts that happened in the past 18 months that you're seeing in the digital marketing space?
Yeah, I mean the team grew a little, but and we, because I also run an internship program as well. So that really exploded. To be, quite frank, is that there were a lot of people who were wanting to learn digital marketing. So they decided to come through our internship program. And I think during the pandemic, we topped out at about 305 interns.
Wow.
Yeah, we had a lot. And in fact, that's how we ended up getting the Facebook contract, is that we actually ended up going in and doing training for Facebook's internship program because our internship program was so successful. So we did that. Definitely changed. Our team grew a little bit more as well as people were coming in. But outside of that, there weren't really many other changes that we made because what we do, we're able to do at scale. So it's not a scenario where I had to go out and scramble to go hire a whole bunch of more people. It was just putting in place the systems that we already had in place that allows us to scale pretty seamlessly.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. I like that shift in knowledge as well. We saw that as well in our company where a lot of people, maybe it's something they always wanted to learn, or maybe there was just the opportunity for time, but they definitely leaned into that. Okay,
Right.
so I want to talk a little bit about how you market your business as well. It sounds like it's very much a relationship play, but I know you're also on social media and you've got some, other digital marketing as well. So talk us through kind of like your high level marketing plan. I'm specifically curious about social media, but I also want to see how social media plays a role in all of like the marketing things that you have going on in your business.
Yeah. So, top level, you've got ads and then there's organic. So we do organic a little bit differently. Our organic is still direct response. And what I mean by direct response is that we identify our target audience and we go after them. We have a process that's called the offer trifecta. There's 3 aspects of the offer trifecta. If you got your offer itself, your avatar, these are the people you're selling to, and then your USP, your unique selling proposition. So when we identify our avatar, we go find them and then bring them back. It's pretty much how that works. Because particularly in the social space, people will tell you, hey, I'm your client. Now, they don't say those words ever. Of course, that would be awesome if they did. But people will post, oh my gosh, I'm having trouble finding clients, or I'm working a whole lot and I'm not making a bunch of money, or I can't seem to get my ads working, or fill in the blank. There's a whole multitude of things that you'll hear people say, boom, they're your client. So you find them, and that goes across the board. So if you're a weight loss coach, where would you find your avatar? In groups that talk about weight loss, right? And so you go there, you build relationships with those people, again, through being a human being, speaking plain English, not trying to, do all this salesy type of stuff, but just building real relationships with them. And then oh, hey, I noticed that you help people with weight loss. Yeah, we do. Now I'm glad you asked. Boom. And now they become your client. So those are the 2 primary ways we still do some offline stuff. A lot, believe it or not, direct mail still works. And in fact, it works even better than it has in the past because most people aren't getting as much stuff in the mail as they were. So when they do get something, it's like, oh, what is this? Yes, I'm interested in this thing. And then it drives them right down some, online funnel that we have set up. So, so those are the primary ways that we do.
Okay. I'm curious about this direct response, kind of like a social media outreach strategy that you've got here. Is that someone on your team implementing that? And how much time do you think it takes to implement that strategy?
Well, we have multiple people doing it. It's just multiple people doing a lot of outreach. So when it comes to time, that's just their job. Their job is to do that outreach because it turns into revenue. And once it turns into revenue, it pays for itself. You can start seeing as much as a 20 to maybe as much as a 25x ROI, by doing that, because you're going directly to the people who want the thing that you have. So you're bypassing a lot of the other time wasting things that most people do. See, we don't really worry about things like vanity metric, all the vanity metrics of social media. And it's not to take anything away from that, because likes and followers and views and all those things, they have, kind of some value, if you will. But at the end of the day, they're still vanity metrics. As we love to say, banksLikeCash.com, right? Banks want money. You can't take your likes down to the bank and say, hey, can I deposit these? You can't take your followers and say, hey, can I trade this in for money? They don't do that. Banks want money. That's what they want. So when you focus on the things that matter, which is getting leads and then converting those leads into customers, then you've got something going on. And so when you ask, how much time does it take? I don't know, because it doesn't matter. We're getting a 20x ROI. So for every dollar we spend in that space, we're making $20. So it doesn't matter how much time it takes. You know what I mean? So yeah. It's also, again, it goes right back to that offer trifecta. You got to know who your avatar is, know how to clearly articulate your offer in a way that provides transformation for your avatar, and then with the unique selling proposition that differentiates you from everyone else who does what you do.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Okay. I want to talk about the ROI as well, because one of the challenges that often comes up with our clients, our members, our students is measuring ROI. You have to be really committed to tracking that success. Otherwise, it'll feel like you're spinning your wheels a little bit. So talk to me how you and your team measure success on some of these campaigns. You mentioned leads, you mentioned conversions. What tools are you using? Give us the deets.
Yeah. So I'll kind of take a step back and talk about why tracking has been a part of our culture. So when you're running a contingency-based company, you have to track everything you do. Because again, if you don't generate revenue, you don't eat. So there's a different context, there's a different mindset going in now. So when you take that type of mindset and apply it to social, it's the same thing that marketers track, marketers test. So the bottom line is that if you're not doing those things, then you really want to consider what are you doing at the end of the day. That's really what it boils down to. Now, you can easily start by just using a spreadsheet. If you want to start on that level, you can just start by using a spreadsheet. I reached out to X amount of people. I got X amount of responses that led to X amount of calls. Those calls led to X amount of sales. You can easily start there. And I say that because, I can start talking about, things like heat maps and, funnel trackers and those types of things. But people hear that stuff and they're like, oh my God, that sounds like a lot. And it is, and it can be. At the end of the day, just start with something. Use a spreadsheet. If that's the thing that's accessible to you, Google Spreadsheets is free. So if you're talking about organic outreach, there's not a lot of metrics that you really need to stay in tune with. How many people are you reaching out to? How many responses are you getting? How many calls are being, are generated because of those responses? And then how many sales are being generated because of those calls? That's it. That's 4 things. You don't need some sophisticated software to manage that. You don't need that. You really don't. And I'm assuming that the majority of the folks who are listening are solopreneurs, solar entrepreneurs, who don't need yet another bill, right? Because we use a lot of different things. We're using Infusionsoft, Keep. We're using Magic Pixels and a lot of other crazy stuff that is really not necessary for you as a solopreneur if you're keeping it that simple. And I'm a very big fan of keeping it simple, because simple works. Simple works. Complex doesn't.
Amen to that. And I do find that when you keep it simple, then you know what tools you actually can use in the future, things that will actually save you, time or give you more complexity. But if you jump right into the tool, you confuse yourself and actually end up making more work for yourself in the long run.
Right.
Okay, I want to end with a question about the future of digital marketing and especially this connection-based marketing. It's something I've been thinking a lot about because we have a unique opportunity with digital marketing to have those one-on-one connections. It's not a radio ad, it's not a billboard, it's not a television commercial, but I do see some businesses marketing that way as if it were a billboard or as if it were, a radio ad. So where do you see some of this, like the connection piece specifically going over the next couple of years when it comes to social media and we see the rise of platforms like TikTok and that sort of thing? How do you see that impacting the future of digital marketing?
That's a very big question. And
yeah, no pressure.
Yeah, right. And I'll try to answer as best I can within the time frame that we have, because there's one huge influence in the social space right now, which is artificial intelligence, and that right now is what I'm finding is allowing us to create social relationships at scale is using artificial intelligence, because human behavior doesn't change. It really doesn't change. All the things that are happening right now have always been happening. It's just that we see them in a very different way now because of accessibility. But human behavior doesn't change. And when you understand that human behavior doesn't change, you can then create technology that actually caters to human behavior. So that's where a lot of artificial intelligence is coming in now, that's allowing us to create multiple relationships simultaneously that lead to real conversations. So I will say the one thing that I feel is going to impact things more than anything else is going to be AI. That's really going to be it. It's going to be AI. How that turns out, honestly, the only scenario is the Terminator. Honestly, that's it. I mean, I don't want to turn your show into a conspiracy theory show, but the reality is that the only outcome of this is Terminator. Every individual who's talked about AI on any level has said the exact same thing. People who created AI, they're like, "Oh, I quit because I saw where this was going." It's going to be Terminator. So enjoy it while you can. Enjoy it while you can, and make a bunch of money from it, because it is a thing that provides access to build scalable relationships in a way that we've never been able to do before, and we've never been able to do the things that we've been able to do. So look at implementing AI into your business. Don't get so caught up on the platforms, TikTok, Snapchat, all these things. They're gonna come and go. They're gonna come and go. That's always going to be the case. But again, human behavior doesn't change. It absolutely doesn't change. So when you understand human behavior doesn't change, you take that same thing and you apply it to TikTok, you apply it to Snapchat, you apply it to, Babadoo, whatever the next new social media platform is going to come out and everyone's going to rush to. What was that? Clubhouse.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing. People say, here's the Clubhouse strategy. What's the Clubhouse strategy? That's different than any other marketing strategy. You connect with people, you build relationships, and you turn those relationships into money. You do it on the individual one-on-one level, or you do it at scale. That's it. But there is no difference. There's no difference between Clubhouse and TikTok. The platform is different, but the philosophies are the same. So understand the human behavior is going to be the same. AI is going to change the way that we can create. Don't get attached to platforms. Understanding human behavior is going to be the way to really survive whatever changes happen, because human behavior will never change.
Yes. Such a great answer. Thank you so much, Antonio, for being on the show today. You have a lead magnet for our audience. Tell us about that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we do with Fearless Impact is we help entrepreneurs regain their lives. We always talk about designing your life and then building your business around the life that you want to live, and not the opposite way around. So we have a program called Time Bank GPS, And what I will do is we will give you guys the 3 steps to being able to 3x your income in the next 3 months, working 1/3 time. So if you go to gettimebank.com, again, gettimebank.com /savvy, SAVVY, gettimebank.com/savvy, and we'll get you those 3 tips to 3x your income in the next 3 months.
Beautiful. And I'll put that link in the show notes. Where else can we connect with you online?
Yeah, you can just find us at Fearless Impact. Fearlessimpact.com and Fearless Impact on all the socials as well. So we can feel free. We got a nice size Facebook group that we're growing, and feel free to join the community of other entrepreneurs who want to make an impact on the world. So that would be one of the best places to reach out to us.
Awesome. And I'll put all of those links in the show notes at OnlineDrea.com/175. Antonio, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure.
Awesome. And thanks everyone for listening to the show today. We have amazing episodes coming up next, more interviews coming your way. And thank you for listening to the show. If you like us, make sure you follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Your support has kept us in the top 100 marketing podcasts in the US, Canada, Australia, and the UK. So thank you for your listenership. We'll be back at you with another episode soon. Bye for now.